Come onto your back. Stretch your legs long. You can be on your bed. That'll be just fine. Stretch your legs long, reach your arms above your head. Circle out your wrists. And maybe flex and point your feet. We're gonna start with the abdominals. Bring your arms down by your side and bend your knees. So start to pay attention to your alignment. You want your knees in front of your hip bones. You can feel those on the top. If you can't, you can bring your hands into your pockets and it's right about there. And your heels are going to be in line with your sit bones. This is important so you know where you are in space and you can start to align yourself and move a little bit more efficiently. Also, it's good postural awareness. So we'll start with our abdominal layering. So inhale into your belly, fill it up. And exhale, just blow the air out. Start to inhale and see if you can fill your abdominals up by pushing your belly button to the ceiling. And then exhale, see if you can just pull the belly button straight down to the spine. So inhale, fill up and expand. And exhale, pull everything in. One more. Inhale, fill, and exhale. Pull the belly button into the spine. Now take a break, place your hands onto your pelvis, and just do a few pelvic tilts. So think about where your fingertips are, kind of towards the pubic bone. You're gonna flatten your back and pull the pubic bone up. And then to arch, you reach it long and away, creating a little arch under your back. And these directions are gonna vary depending on pain and tightness. So you can make them very small or you can go full range of motion. Get a little mobility going in through the hips and then find a nice neutral. So go back to this kind of flat position so you're not collapsed, you're not overly arched, you're in a very small active place. Maintain this nice neutral pelvis. Go back to your breath. So inhale and expand and exhale. Pull the belly button. Now start to focus on the pelvic floor. Imagine you have to go to the bathroom and just lift the pelvic floor or squeeze and hold and then release. Pull the pelvic floor up and then release. So imagine you have to go to the bathroom, you're holding, and you want to try and do that without collapsing in through the spine. So I'm just quickly having you break down some of the abdominal layering. We're gonna add it all in together. So inhale, fill. And on your exhale, see if you can lift the pelvic floor up first and then pull the belly button to the spine. It's like a little T. Inhale, fill. Start with the bottom part of the T, lift the pelvic floor up, and then pull the abdominals in. Exhale. Inhale, fill. Exhale, pelvic floor is going to lift. Abdominals are going to pull in. The belly button goes straight to the spine. One more time. Big inhale, fill through the nose, and exhale, lift the pelvic floor up and see if you can draw all of your abdominals in towards midline. From here, we're going to start with a little hip release. So this is going to focus on external rotation of the hip. Everybody's rotation is going to be different, so find your working level. So on your exhale, just let one knee come out to the side. It might only want to come out a couple inches. It might want to go all the way out, but what you don't want to do is force it. You want to keep the hips nice and stable. Inhale. And exhale, take the other knee out to the side, just very, very slow without the opposite hip moving. So I'll bring that back up through center. I'm going to keep some weight with my hand on this left hip as my right knee opens out to the side. I don't want to let my hips move with the knee. We want to just let that knee open up without any movement on the other side. So I'm pulling my abdominals into center to stabilize that. and then this knee is going to float right back up. That might be a lot bigger than what you're doing, and that's fine. You can come out 1 or 2 inches and exhale, pull back in. I'll show that on this side. Here's a couple inches out and a big inhale back in. So find your working level. And I want you to get really familiar with this exercise. It's going to isolate rotation in the hip while you're stabilizing your pelvis. You must learn how to stabilize your pelvis so you can access your hip muscles and find more strength and stability around your torn labrum or your hip pain. If you have just generalized weakness, you're just strengthening here at this point. Okay, do one more on the left and one more on the right. Use your exhale to deepen your abdominals as the knee goes out, and then inhale back through center. Take your legs long and just give yourself a full stretch through the hips. Reach your arms above your head, twirl out your wrists, and flex your feet so that you reach through the heels. Take a nice big breath here, and then come back in with the knees bent, feet flat on the floor. So moving on into some bridging, keeping the pelvis neutral. So don't curl the tailbone. Keep the pelvis neutral. Reach your arms long by your side. Press firmly down into your mat or your bed, and see if you can press your hips up without curling your tailbone under. And then just come right back down and see if you can land right where you started. So don't collapse the pelvis. Keep it neutral, which might feel like it's forward just a little bit. And then the arms are pressing down into the floor so that the shoulders stay open. So you want to pay attention to these details. Otherwise, you're just lifting the hips up and down, and there's no connection of the mind to the body. And that is the true point of why we're doing the exercises this way. So keeping a pelvis that is neutral. So if you're not sure, you'll go flat and you'll go arch, and then you'll find a halfway point in between. Opening the shoulders so you stabilize up top, and then float the hips up without curling the tailbone under. And then you come right back down to where you started. Now maybe your hips only are going to lift just a little bit. That's perfect. And then come right back down. Maybe you can't even lift off of the mat. That's fine. Just come up as high as you can, maybe enough to get a little sliver of paper under your seat, and then come back down. If you can go higher, you always go to your end range. So your end range is as far as you can go without losing the shoulder stability, without curling and tucking the pelvis, but just floating up and finding length onto the top of the thighs. Keep going at your own pace, and whatever cues are resonating with you, just focus on that. Maybe you have a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders, and your shoulders keep popping up. Just focus on keeping them wide and connected to the mat, lifting the hips. Maybe you're going to focus on the pelvis because it wants to curl. Maybe you're not even aware that you're curling the tailbone under. So come back and do some pelvic tilts and feel when you curl the tailbone under how that flattens your back. So now can you take your hips up without curling the tailbone under? Maybe you're going to focus on that. If you feel like you have your stability pretty good, then focus on reaching your knees forward as you lift the hips so you get more length. Okay, so you can always find something to work on. Let's do one more. And then come back down. And then stretch your legs long and reach your arms over your head. This is just a nice little break to give some length and extension into your spine and into your hips. Okay? And then from here, roll onto your right side. Now don't just roll. Think about how you're rolling. Pulling your belly button in and hugging the abdominals into center. Now the shoulder and the hip are going to roll together. Okay, you might need a pillow, or you can lay on your arm. Just find your clamshell position. So I'll just make a little pillow with my elbow, and do what you need to do to support your body. And sometimes you might even need a little pillow in between your thighs and doing your clamshells from there. I'll do a quick demonstration because sometimes it's very hard. Where did the dog go?
Oh, Frankie, come here. Why are you under there? Come here.
Okay. So maybe you want to do your clamshells here. When you have a pillow in between the legs, it decreases the angle that top hip is experiencing. So if that's your involved hip, you might want to start from a neutral position with your clamshells. That's 100% perfect. And that's you finding what works for your body. So clamshells are pretty basic, but what you want to think about is the hips, keeping the hips stacked. So if I'm completely collapsed and relaxed, my hip is kind of hiking up towards my rib cage. I want to take that top hip and reach it away just a little bit so it lengthens out the waist and maybe lifts that lower waist up just a little bit. You're going to be using your abdominals to do that. Now hold that hip long and away from the rib cage. You put your hand here, and then from there you're just going to open the knee up. It might not go very far. It's okay. Don't push it. Just come up and find your end range. So that's just where your hip is available to move today. Tomorrow might be different, but for right now, find your end range. So wherever your joint or your body is telling you to stop, you might even want to stop right before that. So this is you learning your body. This is a pretty easy exercise to do, but you're going to do it with efficiency, and you're going to connect the mind to the body so that you're in charge of how you're moving, how far you're moving. Okay, so you're just opening up, you're keeping your abdominals pulled in towards center. If you're going to go full range, just use this. You're going to come all the way down to let the knees touch, and then coming all the way up. Now the most important thing too is that when you open your knee, you're not letting your hips roll back. Okay, because that's going to get into your spine. We want to get into this side muscle, this glute medius muscle that really helps stabilize your hips. So when you open your knee, you might not be happy with this range, so you're going to move your hip back to get more, and that's compensation. We want to isolate and just come up as high as you can without the hip going back. So by the time I'm done talking, you've probably done enough, and it's time to move to the other side. So if you're on your bed, just sit up and change sides, or if you're on the floor, you can just roll onto your other side. For the sake of facing you, I will just spin around. I'm gonna keep the pillow out. You can keep using the pillow. Set yourself up on the other side. You can lay your head down. You can even prop your hand behind your head. So I'll do kind of the same thing. So this hip is towards my rib cage. I want to move that hip long and away, and you'll feel the waist on the mat kind of lift. Now keep that lift and length of the waist. Open the knee up on this side. Take a few reps to just feel where your end range is so that you're not compensating. And then once you feel confident with that, you can come back in, make sure your abdominals are lifted, that lower rib cage is lifted up and connecting towards the other. And maybe your hand goes on top of your hip so that you're not rolling your hip as you're opening the knee up to the side. So this is isolating that glute medius, those external rotators of the hip. You're going to go nice and slow, and you need to get that information from your body. What is okay to do, and how far can I go? You might do 3 reps, you might do 5, you might do 10. Whatever you're doing, whatever your body is allowing you to do today, just honor that and do the same repetitions the next time you do this. So we'll do one more. Good. And then from here, just roll right onto your back. And again, using your abdominals to roll. Stretch your arms and legs long. And point your feet this time and roll out your wrists. Good. Now, if you're on your back, you can bring your knees into your chest and give yourself a little hug. Well, we're all on our back. But if you're on the bed, you can just go ahead and roll to sit up. But if you're on your back and you're on the floor, you can pull the knees into the chest, grab behind the thighs, curl the head up, and rock yourself up. Okay, if that doesn't work, if that's not available for you, you're gonna turn onto your side, come on to all fours, and then get up from here. You might have a chair next to you so that when you bring the leg forward, you can hold on to the chair and get yourself up from here. So moving forward, I'll adjust my camera, so professional. All right, so we'll do a little balance. So start with your feet hip distance and just find a really nice posture. So you don't want to stand with the ribs splayed. You want to keep the ribs pulled back towards the spine so that the shoulders are over the hips. Okay, because this is not going to keep us in alignment. This is not our frame. So feet are hip distance, the ribs are hugging in, and the abdominals are lifting up. From here, start by shifting your weight onto your right leg. Now, if your hip has come out, you are not stabilizing. You are not holding yourself in the right way. So try that on the left side. Shift onto the left. Make sure that the hip doesn't pop out. So wrap that seat underneath you and grow taller as you shift your weight. Come back onto the right. And then we'll start with just a little single leg stance. So you can slowly bring that left leg up. You can even just have it forward. And then you'll go to the left side. Slowly come off that right side. Grow taller as you lift the leg up. Now, if you're on carpet or a soft mat, it's going to be harder to balance. So you could be on a firm floor. You can also have your countertop. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the hip strengthening and standing. You can have your counter. You can do it without holding on. It just really depends on your level. I'm just going to demonstrate for the sake of not having a counter. And I'm going to come onto the right side, bring that left leg out, and bring it back in. Now, as the left leg goes out, I'm growing taller with my abdominals. Think of this as an abdominal exercise because you're hugging in and you're lifting up. You're getting taller and taller with each repetition. My leg is not coming forward, it's not going out, the knee is not bent, it's straight. So the leg is reaching down and you're growing taller, finding opposition. Okay, so if you have your counter, just a light fingertip touch. This standing leg is actually getting more work because it's stabilizing the hip. Okay, and then go to your left side. So here's your imaginary counter, or you have a little dowel you can hold on to. Same thing here. I'm gonna hug in and I'm gonna grow taller with each repetition. This leg is reaching long to the ground. So think about opposition. You have gravity pulling you down. You're gonna go the opposite way. Go the opposite way always. Lift the abdominals up, 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 up. And keep that left hip really contained and under your shoulder. If the hip is popping out, then you might not be ready to do full standing. So in that case, come back over to your right side. Stand tall, of course, opposition. And then you'll do a little tap and come back in. Most of the weight, all of the weight, except for a little toe tap on the left, is going to be on the right. So a little tap and in, a little tap and in, using your abdominals. So challenge yourself up top And then try it on the left side. Hugging and tap and coming in and tap and in and tap and in, and then just march it out. Just march it out. And those are going to be your beginner exercises. I hope that helps you get started. And as always, we will build on that. So you'll do resisted side steps, you'll start doing single leg bridging, and we'll do the 3-way straight leg raise. So just take your time, and the most important thing is you just find a really successful place to get started, and then you build and work from there. So I hope this helps. Take care.